Ian.
Recording in
Oh, no, it's
progress.
not him. Oh, you are Pastor Ian. Okay. I can see that. Okay, that's great. Okay, good morning, Pastor Ians. Okay, so we'll be going into a topic that's kind of tied with what I talked about last time. I came last time, I was talking about diaspora ministry, if you guys still remember. And I believe it's no accident that the speaker after me was talking about something similar. Was he? Okay, good. Because I noticed online that there is an African background pastor who was talking about strangers in a foreign land, that type of thing. So God is working. I didn't even know him. Okay, yeah. But I want to pick up on one of the things that I mentioned, and it's about 1.5 second generation immigrants. Diaspora people in a different way. People complain about Asian invasion. And while I walk into this church, every single face is an Asian face. I do know that some of you are Korean. I came to find out this morning because I heard some Korean the other. And I think I heard Ohio somewhere here as well. So I don't know. Yeah. But here in Toronto, it's almost like every other person that you run into is Asian. In Markham, especially, or even in U of T, which is known to be an Asian school these days. Asian invasion. Whose fault is it? Well, let me share with you the passage or the verses that we've just read. From one man he made all the nations, that they should inhabit the whole earth, and marked out the appointed time in in his time and the boundaries of their lands. God did this so that they would seek him and perhaps reach out for him and find him, though he's not far from any one of us. For in him we live and move and have our being. I want to highlight these words. Who did it? God did this. So if you're not happy about it, go argue with him. I know who's going to win. But he did it for a very distinct reason. He did it so that the diaspora people would seek him and perhaps reach out for him and find him, though he's not far from any one of us. And that's why he's sending people out of their places of birth in droves to other parts of the world. And we are part of that phenomenon here. I'm going to show you a couple of pictures. I think most of you are probably too young to know who they are, but I'll try anyways. Who's this guy? Pol Pot. Oh, wow. How did you know him? You old enough to?
I'm old enough.
Okay, Pol Pot. And who's Pol Pot? Well, Pol Pot was the leader in Cambodia during Khmer time. Who's this guy? Will? His name is Ho Chi Minh. Okay, whole city of Saigon is now named after him, forcibly. And he's Vietnamese, and he was the leader of Vietnam at the time. What did they share in common? I did this in other churches. Some people had the guts to tell me they were both human. Well, we know that. And what else do they share in common? That, yeah. Okay.
Asian.
They were both Asians, okay.
This is real Asian. I mean, this is.
Let me tell you. Pol Pot, during his stay, he killed 2 million people out of a 6 million population. This happened in the 70s, before some of you were born. But this is his own country. And at the time, the population was only 6 million. He managed to kill off 2 million of them. That's every 1 in 3 people And invariably, those who were killed were the elites. They were the cream of the crop. And they were seen as enemies precisely because of that. That's the ideology that it came from. Ho Chi Minh, he was the reason why we saw bold people back in the 70s and 80s. The country fell into his hand. People were not optimistic about the future. And so a lot of them took to the seas. Some of them never made it to the other side of the shore. This is what they share in common. They killed a lot of people. There's something else they also share in common. During the younger days, they all went to the West to pursue better education, look for something new, looking for a better future, a better life. And so I have to ask, had they been exposed not to these dangerous ideology, but to the love and truth of our Lord Jesus Christ, how many people could have been saved? Millions upon millions. We cannot go back in history, but we have the future Pol Pots and Ho Chi Minhs right here in Markham, right here in Toronto, right here in Canada. They've come, along with the second generations, to this place where we have the freedom to share the Christian truth. And if we don't do it, it would take very little for them to be likewise exposed to dangerous ideologies and become Pol Pot and Ho Chi Minh in our own time. We cannot go back in history, but we can join the Lord in what He's doing by sending droves of them here to steer history the right direction. And so, if you ask me, I would say this is not an Asian invasion. Instead, it's an Asian invitation. I talked about the word diaspora last time, and as a reminder, it describes the people who have left their places of birth and now they're living in a foreign land. It also includes their kids and grandkids. 1.5 generation immigrants, second generation immigrants, third generation immigrants. Very much part of that phenomenon. And it's nothing new. I think I mentioned the last time that throughout the Bible, throughout the Old Testament and New Testament, we see diaspora people. In the Old Testament, it was Abraham who took his family to a place outside of their place of birth. Adam and Eve, if you still remember, were also part of the diaspora phenomenon. They were kicked out of the Garden of Eden, where they were born. And so they were living in a place outside of their places of birth. Daniel, who was exiled, who served in multiple dynasties. And you go further, you look at Paul, who was himself very bicultural and bilingual. Jesus Christ himself spent his childhood years in Egypt, outside his place of birth. But this is my favorite example. I showed this last time without going into the details. Esther, a PBJ, still remember what it is? Not peanut butter jam, but what is it? Persian-born Jew. That's right. She was a product of exile. Country was held captive by foreign powers. And so she grew up, even though, she's Jew, but she grew up in the Persian Empire. So much like a lot of us, she grew up in a place that's outside of her parents' places of birth. Product of exile, she lived during the time of King Xerxes, and that was the year 480 BC. King Xerxes was planning for a Greek campaign. He was all set to go out and fight a battle. But before he did that, he wanted to give his people, his subjects, a morale booster. And so he put out a huge banquet, and everyone was ordered to drink to their heart's content and eat all they want to eat. He wanted to show off the wealth and prosperity of his empire. Towards the end of the festival, he himself got a bit high. And so out of nowhere, he ordered his queen, Vashti, to come in to show off her beauty. I think you guys know what that means. Nothing good. He was probably asking her to come in to do inappropriate stuff. Like, what self-respecting lady would do that? And so, the Queen Vashti said, no, I'm not coming. That was more than what King Xerxes could handle. He was doing all of that to show off his power, right? But now he can't even tell his own wife to do what he's telling her to do. And so, he said, no. There was no shortage of people around him to talk him into deposing the Queen Vashti. They had grand reasons to do that. They said, well, if your queen should be doing this to you and you do nothing about it, then what about all the other wives in the empire? They would do the same thing. Oh wow, sounds so great. And so Queen Vashti was deposed. King Xerxes went out to do his Greek campaign. It turned out to be a total fiasco. So he came back, and it's all empty. He was looking for something to kind of fill the void. And he started thinking about Queen Vashti again. Not because he loved her, but because he saw her as an object to satisfy his lust. When the people heard about it, those close to him got very worried, for a good reason. Because Vashti, beautiful though she was, she's also known for her brutality. What if she did come back to her position? What would happen to those who talked the king into deposing her? And so these people said, nope, it's not going to happen. But you know what, king? I'm going to find you someone even better. We'll put the whole country into a beauty contest. And whoever wins will become your new queen. This is where Esther came into the picture. I don't know if it was her own will or she didn't even have an option. But she signed up, or she was signed up for the beauty contest. And you know what? She proved herself to be very well liked by everybody. And people put all kinds of things that you can buy in a body shop on her. And the end result is that she looks gorgeous on the day she met the king. And the king immediately had a crush on her. She won the contest. She became Miss Persia, the queen. She grew up as an orphan. We weren't told about the exact circumstances, but it was the uncle, Mordecai, who raised her up. Mordecai was himself a great guy, and at one point, he actually saved the king from an assassination attempt. But for some wonderful, odd reasons, his name quickly got forgotten. Written into a book that nobody reads except when they can't go to sleep. Someone by the name of Haman rose to power. And everybody was ordered to bow down before Haman. And everybody did, except Mordecai. I don't know. It could be ancient rivalry between the Ammonites and the Jews, or it could be that Haman has not earned Mordecai's respect. We'll soon find out in a later episode about what kind of person Haman is. But Haman took offense at that. But he hated to waste his hatred on just one person. And then when he came to find out that Mordecai was actually a Jew, which wasn't in the foreground, you guys understand the dynamics. Neither Mordecai or Esther held themselves out as a Jew, because there's nothing to be gained. Growing up as people with Asian background here in Canada, you know the dynamics very well. I have a Korean American pastor friend, and he graduated from a pretty good college with a pretty good degree. And at the time he was looking for a designer's job, he kept sending out his resumes all over the place. No response, not even one. And so he took it to a personnel expert, and he asked, what's wrong with my resume? And the expert said, everything looks okay, except for one thing. Your name. He was still using his Korean name. And so he quickly decided to give himself an English name, Calvin, not because of John Calvin, but because of Calvin and Hobbes. And so, guess what? He got a response right away. Mordecai and Esther, they were facing the same dynamics. And so they didn't foreground their background. Esther was actually her Persian name. Her Hebrew name is actually Hadassah. But when Haman came to find out about, Mordecai's Jewish background, he talked to the king. And he said, there's this odd set of people in your kingdom. They just don't fit. They don't even obey your law. What he forgot to say is, there's only this one person, Haman, who did not obey this one law to bow down before him. He even offered everything he had to help the king do that. It was a ludicrous offer to the king, and the king couldn't say no to it. And so the king said, well, on this day, we're going to kill off all the Jews. A genocide was about to happen. Perhaps that's why Mordecai did not bow down before Haman, because he's the kind of guy who would do that. He's like Lamech in the book of Genesis. If you killed one person, I'm going to kill off your whole clan. That's him. But Mordecai is now desperate. A genocide is about to happen. And this is a critical point, a critical juncture in salvation history as well. Try to think about it. Had the king been able to go through with the genocide, had all the Jews been killed, where would Jesus Christ be coming from? The long-expected Messiah. It's going to come from the Jewish race, right? Had the Jewish race been killed off altogether, where would he be coming from? So it's at this critical juncture of history that Esther was called to action. everything that happened before her was beyond her control. It wasn't her plan that she became a product of exile. It wasn't her plan that she grew up as an orphan girl. Everything that was happening in the palace, within the royal family, she had nothing to do with it. She was only a peasant girl. And yet, at this point, she's called to join the Lord in what he was planning to do. He couldn't have decided how the story started, but now he's called to join the Lord in helping steer the story in a direction that honors God. It's very much within his capacity, his power, to decide whether or not to do that. He cannot decide how the story starts, but he can fully decide how the story ends by joining the Lord. Mordecai sent words to her 2 times. The first time, her response was, well, you know what's going to happen. If I should go up to the king without being summoned, I would be killed. Sorry, I'm not doing that. So the first time she heard the call, she was more concerned about her well-being, her own future. The second time, Mordecai sent these words to her. She woke up. Do not think that because you're in the king's house, you alone of all the Jews will escape. For if you remain silent at this time, relief and deliverance for the Jews will arise from another place. But you and your father's family will perish. And who knows but that you have come to your royal position for such a time as this. This is her move. And this woke her up. So when we feel called as 1.5 second, third generation diaspora people to join the Lord in what he wants us to do, what would be our response? Are we going to respond the way Esther did the first time? All concerned about our well-being, our own future? Or are we going to say, if I perish, I perish. I'm going to do it anyways. Because who knows but that we've come to the position that we're in for such a time as this. And some of you might be going like, we are no kings, we are no queens. And everything that happened was out of our control. For those of you who were born and brought up here, even for those of you who were not born here, but you were brought up here, it wasn't your desire to come to Canada. It was your parents. It was out of your control. But it's in God's control. It's divinely ordained for you to come here and become part of his plan. I don't know why you were here. I came from Hong Kong over 30 years ago. My kids were born and brought up here. At the time, people were talking about 1997, which is the famous handover back to the mainland. And again, not everyone was optimistic about it. And so droves of people left Hong Kong. It's what they used to call the brain drain. And during the 80s and 90s, a lot of people left Hong Kong. And they ended up in the UK, in Australia, and a lot of them came to Canada. We're also seeing a lot of people from mainland Chinese background in our midst. I'm not from that background, but I've heard from people, from friends, brothers and sisters who came from mainland China that, yes, you can make a lot of money when the economy was booming. You can be in power, you can be in position, but before you know it, things can quickly change on you. and you can lose everything. And so they know that. The most precious commodity was actually a foreign passport. And so they would go out of their way to send their wives and their kids outside of the country, hoping that if anything should happen, at least their family would be safe. I'm also seeing in recent years that a lot of people got a little bit disillusioned because of what they experienced during the COVID time, what they have seen. And some of the second, third generation believers and church leaders, they could see hard time coming their way because of the change in the political climate. And so they've decided to come. But for whatever reason, they took their families here. And believe it or not, this is your queen status. We grew up in a system where we still have the freedom that we have. We grew up in a system where we are kind of exposed to both cultures and we are allowed to be both. I came back from Asia just yesterday, actually. I shared with some of you before. I left on July the 13th, one day after I spoke here, and then I came back yesterday. That's how much I love this church. Part of that trip was to visit Nepal. So I was in Nepal, and my host happens to be a Canadian-Chinese family. The husband and wife, they were both CBCs. They were both born and brought up in Canada. The husband's parents came from Taiwan, and the wife's parents came from Hong Kong. But you know what? They were serving very effectively in Nepal. Because for the international workers there, expats as we call them, their common language is actually English. That's the only common language that they have. And because they were both born and brought up here, their English is very good. But their Asian faces also help them in reaching out to the local people. They're not as big and imposing as people from the West. And you know what? Believe it or not, the English that they speak is easier to understand for the Asians. And so they've become a bridge between the Western workers and the Asian people that they are serving. Canadian passport is actually very well received in different parts of the world, so treasure it. They've got the best of both worlds. They can join the Lord in what He's calling them to do if they respond to Him the way Esther did the second time. But being people who are bicultural, bilingual, we have to deal with a lot of tensions. I've been in English ministry for over 20 years and have witnessed it all. Let's take a look at the difference in culture between the Asians and the Westerners. I hope this works, okay?
好容易就簡單啦，就咁就得。大家飲杯，飲杯，飲杯，得啦！大家食啊！好嘢啊！冇食啊！我飲埋先。The English believe it's a slur on your host's food if you don't clear your plate. Whereas the Chinese feel you're questioning their generosity if you do. At HSBC, we never underestimate the importance of local knowledge. Which is why we have local banks staffed by local people in over 80 countries across the globe. HSBC, the world's local bank.
Enough said. Not my endorsement of this bank. They're no longer in operation in Canada. Anyways, but at one time, they did a lot of business between the Western people and the Asian people. And, this is part of their keen insight into the difference between the two. I'm going to share with you a set of slides that came from the hand of a German Chinese. So she was living between the West and the Eastern culture as well. Germany is in some ways typical of the Western culture, and Chinese is in some way typical of the Asian culture. So on the blue side, you're seeing the German culture. On the red side, you're seeing the Chinese culture. Punctuality. Have any one of you been to Germany? I've been to Germany, okay. The way the train system works is quite something, okay. If they say the train is going to arrive at 10:11 and you show up at 10:11:01, the train is gone. Okay? Yeah. In Asian culture, where I've been exposed to because of my work, in some parts of Asia, people just don't show up on time. We're very laid-back culture. And if you say you're going to meet people at 12, they show up at 12:15, and they don't even bother to apologize. To them, it's just life. And in some parts of the Middle East, I was told that they don't show up on time because they respect you. You should say thank you to them. You know why? Because in those cultures, only servants are expected to show up on time at the master's request. You look like a free person. You're not a servant. We are peers. So in order to respect you, I'll be 30 minutes late. Thank me later. In restaurants, these are sound waves. Got it? Asian restaurants, the louder, the better. Western restaurants, well, let us enjoy our meal in peace and quiet. Expressing opinions. Asian culture, well, what you said was good, but. And so they'll beat about the bush, and at the end, you'll quickly find out they actually don't disagree. They actually don't agree with you. Whereas a lot of Westerners, well, Canadians are a little bit better, actually. They would go, you are wrong. Let me tell you why. And everyone is okay with it. Anger. Asian people walk in, beaming smile. Inside of them, they're all stressed up. During the 15 minutes of setup this morning, I was smiling the whole time. I was going very anxious, actually. Whereas a typical Westerner would just show, huh? Anyways. Handling problems. The Asians would do this, and the Westerners would do that. Now, I'm not saying which one is better. It's just a difference. Okay? And as a matter of fact, I would say that both cultures are good. Both cultures are also flawed in the eyes of God. Queuing. I just came back from Asia. And in some countries, they just don't line up at all. I remember at one point, I was in a second or third city in East Asia, second or third tier city, as they call it. And so I was lining up at the airport. The gate wasn't open yet, and so I was standing there patiently. The gate finally opened, and everyone behind me just jumped to the front. And I was fully expecting the flight attendant to look at me first, because I'm the good guy. I'm standing there. I'm lining up. But in their thinking, it's like, well, so you're not rushing to me. You're not in the rush. You can wait. That's the culture. Our view of ourselves. In a lot of Asian cultures, you're just one among many. But in the Western culture, it's all about us. Well, sorry, not about us. It's all about me. Who cares what others think about me? So there's a lot of individualism in the Western culture. Tied with that is our lifestyle. So Asian culture tends to be very collectivistic, community-based, whereas in the Western culture, me. No issue about being a Lone Ranger. Streets on Sunday. Go to downtown Toronto. You probably don't see a lot of people. Well, summertime is a little bit better. But go to any Asian city. Sunday, on any street, it's like that. Party time. That's why Chinese restaurants have got these round tables. Because that's how you want to be seated. Whereas in a lot of Western settings, you just talk to whoever you want to talk to. Just 2 or 3 people. Or maybe you want to be just by yourself, and it's perfectly fine. Bosses, and in some settings, even the pastors. In the Asian setting, I've been to churches in East Asia. I can't even talk to the lead pastor because I'm not important enough. The only time you get to see him is when he baptizes you. You're one among maybe 100 or 1,000. Okay? But here in Canada, especially in the English ministry setting, we are just the first among equals. Buddies. Right? Yeah. Same goes with the bosses in our workplace. And that's reflected in the pay as well. In Asia, if you're the boss, you might be making 10 times as much as those who are following you. Here, when you're the boss, you make about 10 or 20% more than those than those that are following you. After tax, it translates to about $10, $20 more each month. And so a lot of Canadians just don't like to be promoted. More responsibility, but the pay is not there. Last one, shower time. I work for an agency with a lot of Caucasian Western people, and a lot of times we go to the field together, we share the same room because of budget reasons and whatnot. We fight over everything except one thing, shower time. I still do my shower in the nighttime. I can't go to bed without a good shower. But they'll just go to bed. They can't start a good day without a good shower. Just a glimpse of the differences between the Western culture and the Asian culture. And a lot of times, as 1.5 second-generation immigrants, we get caught in that kind of dynamics. We're too Asian to be Canadian, too Canadian to be Asian. And sometimes you might run into situations like this one.
Hi there.
Hi.
Nice day, huh?
Yeah, finally, right?
Where are you from? Your English is perfect.
San Diego. We speak English there.
Oh, no. Where are you from?
Well, I was born in Orange County, but I never actually lived there.
I mean before that.
Before I was born.
Yeah, like, where are your people from?
Well, my great-grandma was from Seoul.
Korean. I knew it. I was like, she's either Japanese or Korean. But I was leaning more towards Korean.
Amazing.
Hamshasina. There's a really good teriyaki barbecue place near my apartment. So I actually really like kimchi.
Cool. What about you? Where are you from?
San Francisco.
But where are you from?
Oh, I'm just American.
Really? You're Native American?
No, just regular American. Oh, well, I guess my grandparents are from England.
Oh, well. Hello, Gum-Dum! What's all this then? Top of the morning to you. Let's get a small tea. Double, toil and trouble. Mind the gap! Beware, Jack the Ripper! Bloody hell! Pip pip! Cheerio! I think your people's fish and chips are amazing.
You're weird.
Really? I'm weird? Must be a Korean thing.
Resonate with that? I'm going to show you the reverse version of that. I happen to belong to an organization where a lot of Caucasian faces grew up in Asia. Inside of them, they are more Asian than I am. But let's just enjoy this other clip.
すいません。
はい。
ご注文の方お決まりですか？
Oh, sorry, I don't speak Japanese.
彼女は日本語がわかんないんですよ。今日のおすすめは何ですか？
すいません、ちょっと英語わかんないんで。でも今の日本語だったよね。
そうだよね。
彼らのご注文の方は。
いえ、だから彼女はアメリカ人なんやって。
そうそう。
日本語全くわからへんねん。
うん、そうだよ。
お連れの方たちハンバーグですかね、やっぱり。
つまりですね、いいですか？彼女は日本人に見えるかもしれませんが、育ちはアメリカです。日本語は全く喋れません。僕らは確かに外見と言葉のギャップがあります。でももう21世紀、外見とアイデンティティは違うということを我々現代人は認めるべきです。
そうだ、その通りだ。
僕は今日本語で喋っています。日本語は母国語です。生まれも育ちも千葉県の安房鴨川市、漁業の盛んな落花生の産地です。
おいしいね。
スポンサーチームは日本ハムファイターズです。
ファイター
ですからどうかお願いします。僕らの日本語を聞いてください。
お願いします。
お飲み物の方決まりですか？
マジかよ。
エビフライ定食
エビフライ定食
一つ。
一つ。
はい、かしこまりました。エビフライ定食一つ。
ご覧の
If you ask me, I would say they're true descendants of Confucius. Confucians. Confused and confusing at the same time. Whereas a lot of you guys are probably known as bananas or bamboos. These people, they are known as hard-boiled eggs. You know how you peel off a hard-boiled egg? It's all white on the outside, but it's yellow in the inside. And they come in all kinds of options. Some of them are over easy, others are sunnies, some of them are totally scrambled. Okay, yeah. Third culture. Very much a culture in and of itself. Don't feel that you have to be squished into either culture. It's okay to be too Asian to be Canadian and too Canadian to be Asian. God in His wisdom has put all of us in the diaspora as first 1.5, second, third generation immigrants because He has something for us to do in our time, much like He did in Esther's time. So we don't have to be confused. These are things that I've explained last time, so I'm not going to go over it again, but you've heard these terms, TCKs. People who were born and brought up in a culture that's not their parents. That's why it's called third culture. And then CCK, 1.5 generation people. People who were born, a different place, but they've come with their parents to the West. They've got their similarities and differences as well. But one of the things that we often feel is that we are fish out of water. We don't feel that we belong to either culture. And so are we wrecked for life? We are wrecked not for the duration of life, but for the purpose of life. Because we are the Esthers.
Dining etiquette and eating a massive burger don't mesh together very well. Japan has come up with a solution. The country is big on having manners at the supper table, and that rule especially applies to women. The cheeseburger chain called Freshness Burger recently unveiled an innovative and modern burger wrapper to help the ladies conceal their mouths while consuming one of the company's signature menu items. Called the Liberation Wrapper, it has a photo of a woman's mouth, nose, and chin printed on the paper. The mouth in the picture is completely closed, so if the lady consuming the burger keeps the burger partially wrapped while eating, it will appear to others as though her lips are closed. The seemingly bizarre invention was created to encourage women to have a burger and not be required to forego table manners by openly widening their mouths to consume one, because the lips and lower half of the face would be concealed by the wrapper. While not everyone was in favor of the wrapper, or the fact that it was targeted solely for females, the gimmick seemed to work. Sales for the classic burger reportedly went up approximately 200% since the paper was revealed to the public.
Yes, differences in culture is something that we have to deal with day in and day out. I know that a lot of you feel conflicted because at home you're expected to kind of follow the Asian culture, whereas out there in schools and workplaces, the expectation will be the other way around. Or people are confused about how to treat you guys. But that's okay. When we come to terms with it, when we're able to see the differences, we can grab it by the horns and use it not to make money, but to serve the Lord. In East Asia, if you walk into a Pizza Hut, you look at the toppings on the menu, you'll be caught by surprise. Instead of the regular pepperoni and everything, they'll have, what do you call those? Peking ducks as topping. Or they would have soft shell crab for a pizza topping. You walk into a KFC, they offer Sichuan flavored chicken burger. All kinds of options except regular burger. And when I took my kids there, after a few weeks serving there, we were all craving for Canadian food. So we walk into this Pizza Hut and look at the menu. It's like, can we have a regular pizza? No, it's not available. But that's what happens when we know the differences and we can build on it for the sake of His kingdom. As third culture people, CCK or TC or CCKs, we have a larger worldview because we know that there is more than one worldview at work in the whole world. We've seen it. And we can think outside the box because we have seen things done different ways and they all work. We can be more adaptable. We can be natural bridges between different cultures. And living in the polarized and radicalized world that we live in, we need more people like yourselves. People who can flow between cultures. People who understand the differences between the cultures. People who can form natural bridges, who can be an instrument of peace between radical views. Yes, at times, we might have to struggle with our own identity. So who are we? Are we Asians? Are we Canadians? Who are we? But ultimately, we are neither. Ultimately, we are citizens of a heavenly kingdom. But while we are kept this side of eternity, we don't have to deny our heritage. We don't have to deny the fact that we are living in Canada. God has made us this way for His own purpose. Sometimes we just don't know who our peers are, depending on who we are, where we are. But you know what? We are part of God's body, the body of Christ. And so we should find our peers, our best friends within God's kingdom, regardless of their ethnic background, regardless of their cultural background. Where do we call home? Well, we don't call the earth home. That's the ultimate reality. Heaven is our home. And while God is keeping us here, we've got work to do. And I think that's where we build a sense of home. Root and rest. So where do we find rest? A lot of times we kind of go in and out, and sometimes we're in Asia, other times we're here, but ultimately we find our root and rest in Christ and Christ alone. So if you ask me, TCKs, people like you are history makers, you're world changers. Remember how Esther responded the first time. All concerned about ourselves, our future, our own well-being? Or do we see our third culture identity as a gift from the Lord? Do we see ourselves as people that God is going to call to respond to the needs of our time? It could be here. It could be in other parts of the world. It could be ministering to people of similar background. And because of the makeup of this group, I would say you guys are best positioned to welcome in people from other parts of the world. be it from India, from Pakistan, from Africa, from other parts of Asia, whether these people are international students, new immigrants, or refugees, you guys are best positioned to welcome them because of your bicultural, your bilingual background. You can be a blessing to them. Who knows but that you've come to your royal position, your TCK position for such a time as this. Father Lord, I come before you and I give you praise and thanks for the way that you've gifted us. And I pray that you'll help us to know that we are blessed to be a blessing. So help us to use that third culture identity that you've blessed us with to join you in welcoming in the newcomers, and also to be sharing your gospel, sharing your love and truth with people outside of our own culture, here or overseas. Help us to respond to you the way Esther did the second time Mordecai spoke to her. All for your kingdom, all for your glory, Lord. In the name of Jesus we pray.